Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Hospitality Marketing, show number 426. Happy October, everyone. My name is Loren, your host. And given that we're into our fourth quarter of this year, and given the fact that we have spent several past shows, these past 4 weeks in particular, talking about analytics and data and the usages of data and targeting, segmentation, custom audiences, proper reporting, actually, we're writing a book. The book is almost done for 2024, which is Data and Marketing Analytics for 2024. Um, anyways, wanted to get back to more of a alternative to the topic, since we've been so focused on ever since July 1st, when GA4 turned into reality. We dove heavy into the data and the analytics and the reporting, and that rolled right into our budget season. And even though we're now into the final stretches of our budget season, which is October, we're doing presentations and finalizations and authorizations. It's also just important to know that we have to get back to the aspect of our business that is the most enjoyable. I'm not saying that the data and the marketing is enjoyable, but marketing is, as we've always said, as a communication. Marketing is communication. Yes, it has its inherent value for we are running a business. So what we do for marketing is in the driven capabilities of how we generate the revenue we need to operate as a business. So we're not confusing the two to that, but one of the truly definitive aspects of marketing is communication. So our topic this week is related to that, and that is storytelling content, SEO, UI, and AI. The reason why I put all of those together is because story content is a never-ending need of our business. It's a never-ending need of our marketing. Now, for many hotels, they might be saying, "Well, look, I'm point B out of a distance between A and C. My functionality is to exist as a brick and mortar is that intermediary for people's travels." Airport hotel, uh, long stretch of drive market road between you and some other place, and you're the some other place in the middle. What stories are there to tell? I mean, obviously, and I say this, that there's a lot to tell. Humanizing your business, identifying people, talking not just about the reviews you get and the quality of service you give or the quality of product that you have, but the relevancy of the value of what you offer in the world of what you do. We'll get back to that in just a moment and talk more about storytelling. Um, for destinations and resorts and place and hotels that are in locations that have that drivability of them, the market that they represent, storytelling should be second nature. It should be a part of your daily bread and butter. Now, we've talked about storytelling generationally many times in relationship to social, the storyboarding of social, the subcontext of what you write content for social platforms to use. You have your off the beaten path, you have your culture, and you have your historical, you have your family, you have your soft adventure. These are categories of content that you create stories around. We talked about the usages of data, where you identify the inception of people's engagement with you and knowing when you should begin to have stories and content related to events and seasonalities and holidays and business driven events of what your business is good at for the destination it's located in. So we've talked in and around the storytelling, but we haven't really dove into the actual value of being able to create good storytelling. First, let's define it. Storytelling historically is human beings. We love a good story. We love a well-written story. We read a good book. We watch a good movie. We love a story, and there's certain fundamentals of stories. In the most simplistic of terms, you have a beginning, a middle, and an end. You have the inception of the dialogue, the value of what you want to talk about at the inception of the dialogue, and the conclusion of the inception. In movies and in books, you have heroes and heroines and sages and advice and adventures and journeys and so forth. There's lots of mechanics associated with storytelling. Well, we're marketers. So our purpose of storytelling is to both inform, educate, and convince a reader or a listener or a viewer or a researcher um, what of our content, what's valuable to them. And of course, we're going to be about our businesses, our hotels, our restaurants, our outlets of golf or spa or whatever. We tell stories about it. Contextually, it could be as simple and as fundamental, going back to our between point A and point C, our point B hotel that's a brick and mortar on the side of a road between two destination points. And it could be that your story is about the humanizing of your people, that they have real lives. And yes, you can feature Bob behind the front desk, or Mary behind the front desk, or in housekeeping, or in engineering, or landscaping, or anything like that, to put a human touch to what is basically a function of a commodity. I need a hotel between A and C. This is the one that's best. Why is it the best? Because we have great service. We have clean and efficient product. We have these types of amenities. Whatever those are fundamental story concepts. But there's more to it. There's more ways to talk about what not to miss in your journey between A and C, or between C and A, and what maybe people may not know about where you're at. And it may be nothing at all, that you might think it's so mundane because you're so familiar to it that nobody would even care about the fact that there's only two gas stations to the intersection that you're located on. But you know what? Some people do look for that. And we'll talk about an example that I use quite regularly when I tell people about what happened to me with a hotel far up north in Canada. But going back to the storytelling concept, we have a very unique opportunity when it comes to storytelling in this time and age, because we've always had to optimize our story content as content for the channels that we use, whether it be websites, social media, as we just discussed, other mediums that we use, whether it be video, imagery, or what have you. We've had to optimize it so that it gets the best yieldability off the platform we've presented it on. And of course, we want to show well for search engine results pages, SERP pages. We want to be able to make sure that what we spend effort and time on produces a revenue component to it. After all, we are marketing for a business. We are in the mind of doing business. And so SEO has always been a fundamental aspect of storytelling for what we do as marketers. UI, user engagement interface, is about how they interact with the content. Is it dissectable? Is it in small enough readable snack bites, or whatever, the buzzwords that people love to use? Is it image based? Is it video based? Is there a purpose to it, or is it just informational? Is it descriptive? Is it helpful based on topic of value and relevance? And this is where you start getting into the value of the content you're writing, the SEO value, search engine optimization value of its usability on the platforms you're doing for, and how people engage with it, that user interface of it. Is it a segmented video? Is it a segmented story? Is it a image montage, a collage, a carousel? These are all variations to a way of presenting content, storytelling content. A picture's worth 1,000 words. The old story goes. So creating a kind of a sequence of images where you have a progressive story, where image number one, and then there's an image number two. And we talked about this, and even these past few weeks, about engaging with personas and the progressive communications, level 1 communication versus level 2 communication. You just don't repeat yourself the second time you're in front of them. You take from where you left off and added another step, and then you added another step in step 3, and so forth. It's a progressive conversation dialogue. You're doing the same with the story content. You're giving it an inception. We want to present this content to you. And then based upon how they interact with it, the user interaction with it, then we might redefine the segment of content that they're interested in. Easiest case in point is if you send out an email to an audience that you have, and you have several aspects in the email that may relate to certain interests of AARP or military or whatever. Not just having to be special offers, but just unique content that you have about those types of categories. And then people interact with those categories. You've subdivided your categories from initially getting the newsletter, to engaging to the newsletter, to engaging to a specific part of the newsletter. That means now you have a more defined communication opportunity with those people. They indicated they're interested in military discounts or military offers or events related to military personnel in the area. Whatever the content was, you now know that much more about them. That's a huge value to how you craft story content. So where does AI come in all this? AI is the ability now that we have to make it easier for us to do this. It is so easy for me to blather on and write multiple paragraphs of something one day, and the next day I have a writer block that I can't seem to get past 2 sentences in an email without rewriting it 15 times over. And I think that's indicative of most people, that you have your moments of creative inspiration and insight, and then you have your other moments of mundane trying to figure out what to do with it. And you also want some continuity to it. You also want some value and quality to it. Not all of us are great writers. If I wrote, and I do, like I talk, it's almost as if it's one never-ending sentence. not a good writing style. So AI is really fun for me as I now take content and then I have AI take what I want it to talk about. Remember, we talked about AI a lot in these past few shows, 416, 417, 418 in particular, where it's about taking qualified data that you define, not data that it goes fetches. Because it'll only fetch what it needs to create what you've asked it to do. So it will make stuff up sometimes. We talk about truth and accuracy with AI. So AI is best done when it's contained into the content that you want it to use, the data that you want it to use. Use what I just said, but write it in this tone about this expansion of topic and look at it and say, is that what I want to say? Now, you say, well, that's still work. You still have to go in and redefine the result of it. Yes, but now what you have is you're polishing something rather than having to create it from the rough. It's now at a much more advanced perspective. And it can be used again, saying, okay, this sounds good. It's not quite what I want, but I like certain things about it. So I want to take those certain things, say, use these things. I want you to rewrite it with the same tone for the same purpose, this length, for this purpose. For a Facebook content post or a website page or a blog or a newsletter, whatever it is you're trying to craft for it. And there's tons of tools out there. As a matter of fact, today's podcast, which we always do after our live show, and we recap, of course, the live show in the context of the podcast, but the podcast is much shorter. And it's more tools driven and techniques using those tools. We're going to talk about tools that are specific about story crafting and story writing to the content that you want them to be on, whether it's a blog, whether it's an article, whether it's a post, whether it's a book, whether it's a magazine article, whatever you are envisioning the content to be, it can help you with it if you define it properly. And that's where the AI comes into the storytelling content, SEO, UI, and AI. So let me give you some examples of the value proposition of storytelling, because I know from comments that you send, by the way, I answer every email that comes to me at Loren and Hospitality Digital Marketing when it comes to the live show or the podcast. And if anybody's watching us on TV, we have our TV channel, the Hospitality Channel. You can catch us on Roku, Google, Amazon, Apple, LG, Samsung, list goes on. And if you're watching it on your gaming console, we broadcast on Twitch, we broadcast on Facebook, multiple pages, YouTube, multiple channels, LinkedIn, Twitter, which is now X. We're always simulcasting on all the channels available. And you can always catch our I Love Lucy rerun shows on hospitalitychannel.tv. All of our TV shows and podcasts are there as well. So with the idea of storytelling, and I've said this in context many times before, I was at a presentation in Canada, west coast of Canada, many years ago. And I was talking about e-commerce at the time. That gives you a sense of how far back it goes. And everyone was enthusiastic about it. They were intrigued. They thanked me a lot for the content and so forth. And this one very burly-looking dude came up. And I'm a big dude myself, but he had the northern kind of look to him, the beard and so forth. I didn't have a beard at the time. And he says, Loren, that was some great stuff. That's great. But I run 2 hotels up in Yellowknife. And half of the year, I can't have enough hotel rooms. As a matter of fact, I actually have people that pitch tents in the back of the hotel because I don't have rooms because of all the oil businesses up there. And then he says the other half of the year when we're locked out, I can't sell rooms because there's nobody up here because it's so hard to get up here. And so I know my business. I know who comes in. I know who doesn't come in. So half the year, I don't have a big enough hotel. And the other half of the year, I have too much hotel. And I said, well, you know your market, and, I understand, and thanks for listening, and thanks for saying that, and so forth. And I hope you get all the business you want out of the 6 months you have. And he says, yep. Hey, if you ever want to come up and, shoot a 16-point buck or pick up a 20-pound bass, let me know. And I said, wait, does that only happen in the 6 months that you're full? And he says, oh, gosh, no, we got another good 3 months of good hunting and fishing and stuff like that. But all the other crews are gone by that point. I said, really? So it turns out he had a story to tell. There were things to share. And it was then having to say, well, I have this story content about these things you can do. Who would be interested in doing those things? And that's where the idea of, well, we got to find an audience for this. It turns out a Japanese businessman loved the idea of flying to Canada. And even if it takes 3 planes, 2 trains, a seaplane, and a bus, they like to be in the middle of nowhere. and do exactly what it is that he said you could do there. So now instead of having 6 months of no business, he's now down to 3 months of some business, because now there's more reasons people have discovered him and have other reasons to be up there because of its remoteness. The very thing he condemned why he didn't have business is the very thing that people, once defined, are eager to enjoy, because he has a quality product. It's just very far away and very distant and very remote, and people wanted that. So it's about getting the right content, the right story in front of the right people. And that's what the storytelling content and the optimization to make sure it gets out to the people that are in that vein of discovery and easily understandable in the user interaction interface of it, UI, that they can digest it, whether it's videos or photography or montages, collages, articles, blogs, whatever it is that you're producing. That interface is very valuable for people to understand and connect, that it has hyperlinks or ways of going back and tracking what you're referring to, or links to what it is that you want, anchor text that you want them to be able to follow if they're wanting to dive deeper into the content. You notice that with all good articles, there's a deeper dive anchor text that goes into content and so forth. And AI can give that wonderful polish and full-bodiedness to it through proper prompting and through proper explanations of what you're wanting it to produce the content that makes it engaging, that makes it the high value that you're wanting it to be. That's the key elements about storytelling. Knowing that there is a story to tell is just the first step. Knowing who you're having to tell it to and optimizing for that is the second. How they're going to interact with it is the third. And how to flourish it into the content that you need to use specifically for it is the fourth. Those are the key elements of creating the story content for that. So there you have it. I know this is relatively brief of a show. As you can see, we are traveling, and I don't want we have the bragging rights that for in our 10th year, every week we without fail will always have a show, 11:30 Friday mornings. I mean, we've shifted the days over the years. First 3 years we were Wednesdays, I think we were at 1 o'clock, and then we shifted to Fridays at 11:30. But we never fail to do that. We do have our podcast after this that we will recap some of the content that we talked about today. In context to the tools and the techniques that we use those tools for in our podcast. And our podcast is broadcast on our radio station, Hospitality Radio. You can find it at hospitalityradio.com. We're also broadcast on 26 international platforms globally. Our TV channel, as mentioned before, our hospitality channel, is an Apple iOS or Google Play app. You look for a hospitality channel, you'll find us there. There is a pay gateway if you want additional content, but the live show, this is always on the free side of that. You can also watch us on your Roku, your Google, Amazon, Apple TV, Samsung, LG TV, smart TVs in general. Just look for the hospitality channel. You'll always find us. Also, as I mentioned before, on Twitch. If you want to find us on the web for our live show, you can go to talktravel.tv. There you'll find our interface for there. If you are a hospitality marketing professional and wish to talk to peers, advanced conversations, there's plenty of people out in the world trying to teach you basic hospitality marketing, digital marketing. We're not here to teach you basics. We're here to go over and talk to people that are already doing it, that need a good peer group to talk about advanced topics and things related to hospitality marketing. If you're one of those people, you can go to hospitalitymarketing.club, put in your email. I send you a quiz. You pass the quiz, showing that you have the aptitude. We enjoy you to the peer group. It's a closed group, not on Facebook, not anything. We have our own social media platform that it's locked into. That allows you a chance to talk to people, and we have live Q&A. We have live broadcasts on there as well. It's a lot of fun. So let's see. I think we hit just about all of it. A radio station. If you do want to audio talk to me, any feedback, I answer every email that comes to me, Loren at Hospitality Digital Marketing, for the podcast and the live show. If you want to give me an audio feedback, we do it every week, hdm.news/talkback. And that allows you to answer our audio quiz of the week and tell me whether I can use it as a quote or not on the podcast. And also, you can speak your mind to me and tell me what your ideas, thoughts, and comments are, and so forth. We also simulcast the show again, 11:30 a.m. Sydney, Australian time for our APAC friends, which we still, even though we do that at a more convenient time zone for them, we still get lots of people watching us live from all over the world. 209 countries we're located in with our TV broadcast. Thank you, everyone, for watching us from around the world for that. Our podcast is in 39 countries now. We translate that to 11 languages. I know we also simulcast 11:30 a.m. Wednesdays, London, UK time for our EU friends and Mideast friends as well. If that works a more convenient time for you there as well. So with that, my name is Loren Gray. I thank you for the privilege of your time and look forward to talking to you all next week.